Have you ever sat in a room full of people who share your blood, look like you, and supposedly love you, yet felt more alone than if you were stranded on a desert island? Have you ever felt that specific, cold ache in your chest when you realize that to the people you would take a bullet for, you are nothing more than a convenient joke? If you are nodding your head right now, I am so sorry. I know that pain. It is a pain that doesn't bleed, but it rots you from the inside out. My name is Sarah. I am 29 years old. And for most of my life, I thought I was the problem. I thought I was the black sheep, the failure, the one who just couldn't quite catch up to the glittering perfection of my family. But on New Year's Eve, under the glow of expensive crystal chandeliers, the blindfold was finally ripped off my eyes. My own mother invited me to dinner. I thought it was an olive branch. I thought, maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. But she didn't invite me to celebrate. She invited me to tear me apart. But she made a mistake. A fatal, arrogant mistake. She forgot that the person you kick when they are down might just be the person holding the keys to your entire life. If you have ever been the scapegoat, if you have ever been used financially by family, or if you just want to see justice served cold, stay with me. Because what happened in the 7 days following that dinner wasn't just revenge. It was a revolution. If you suspect you are being used, watch closely. How I handled this might just save your future. To understand why I did what I did, you have to understand the hierarchy of my family. It was a pyramid, and I was the dirt at the bottom. At the top were my parents, Linda and Robert. They were the picture of upper-middle-class success. My father was a consultant, my mother a socialite who turned charity luncheons into competitive sports. They were polished, perfect, and obsessed with image. Then there was Kevin. My older brother. The golden child. Kevin could do no wrong. If Kevin got a C in school, it was the teacher's fault. If Kevin crashed his car, it was the road's fault. He was handsome, charming in a snake oil salesman kind of way, and ambitious. He worked in real estate, or investments, or whatever buzzword he was using that month. And then, there was me. Sarah. I was the quiet one. The one who liked art instead of business. The one who wore thrift store sweaters instead of tailored suits. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, living in a tiny, drafty apartment in Seattle that smelled like old rain and coffee. I drove a 10-year-old sedan that rattled when I went over 40 miles an hour. In my family's narrative, I was the struggling artist. The disappointment. The one they had to worry about. For years, I bought into this story. I believed I was a burden. I ate ramen noodles 5 nights a week to save money, while scrolling through Instagram seeing my parents and Kevin checking into the Ritz Paris or flying first class to Dubai. I never asked for money. In fact, I did the opposite. I tried to be useful. I wanted to prove I was part of the team. That was their trap. It started when I was barely 21. My dad would slide a document across the kitchen table. "Sarah, honey," he'd say, using that warm, fatherly voice I craved so much. "We need you to sign this. It's for tax purposes. It helps the family estate." "What is it?" I'd ask. "Don't worry your pretty little head about the legalese," Kevin would chime in, patting my shoulder. "It's just to keep assets safe. You trust us, right?" Of course I trusted them. They were my family. They were the successful ones. I was just Sarah. So, I signed. I signed loan applications. I signed joint account agreements. I signed deeds. "It builds your credit score," Mom would say, beaming at me. "We are helping you, Sarah. Most parents wouldn't do this for a child in your position." I felt grateful. Can you believe that? I sat there in my Goodwill coat, signing papers that I didn't read, thinking, wow, they really care about my future. They are including me. I was so desperate for their approval that I handed them the gun they would eventually hold to my head. I have to pause here and ask you. Have you ever signed something for a family member without reading it because you were afraid of offending them? Because you didn't want to seem distrustful? If you have, tell me in the comments. Let's see how many of us have fallen for the trust trap. For nearly a decade, this was our dynamic. I lived in poverty, scraping by, while my name, my legal identity, was living a life of luxury I was never invited to. And then came New Year's Eve. The invitation came via text from my mom. Dinner at Lou Cavalier's. 8 p.m. Dress appropriately. Don't be late. No miss you, no love to see you. Just a summons. But like a dog waiting for scraps, I went. I spent 3 hours getting ready. I ironed my best dress. I curled my hair. I wanted to look like I belonged. The restaurant was one of those places where the menus don't have prices and the waiters look like models. My family was already seated at a prime table when I arrived. They looked like a royalty photo shoot. "You're here," my dad said, glancing at his watch. "And on time. Miracles do happen." I smiled, swallowing the insult. "Happy New Year, Dad." I sat down next to my mother. The champagne was flowing. They were laughing, talking about Kevin's latest huge deal and their upcoming trip to the Maldives. I sat silently, sipping my water, feeling that familiar glass wall slide down between us. I was there, but I wasn't really there. Then, the alcohol kicked in, and the filters fell off. My mother leaned in close to me. Her perfume was expensive and overpowering, a scent of gardenias and money. She put a hand on my arm. Her skin was warm, but her eyes were ice cold. "You know, Sarah," she whispered, her voice sugary sweet so the neighboring tables wouldn't hear. "We only invited you out of pity. It's New Year's. It looks bad if we leave the stray dog out in the cold." My breath hitched. I turned to look at her, searching for a sign that she was joking. "Excuse me?" I stammered. She smirked. It was a small, cruel twitch of her lips. "Don't stay too long, okay? We have friends coming by later, successful people. We don't want you making things awkward with your whole vibe." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. But it didn't end there. Kevin, my brother, saw the look on my face and burst out laughing. He clapped his hand on the table, drawing the attention of the entire room. "Oh, look at her face!" Kevin howled. She actually thought she was part of the inner circle. "Sarah, let's be real. You're basically the failure of the family. The one who never made it. The one we have to rescue and hide." A couple of relatives at the other end of the table chuckled. "Well," an aunt muttered, raising her glass, "at least she didn't wear that awful denim jacket this time." It was like a firing squad. They had all agreed, silently and collectively, that I was the joke of the night. I was the prop they used to make themselves feel superior. I sat there, freezing. The sounds of the restaurant, the clinking silverware, the jazz music, the laughter, became a dull roar in my ears. I looked at my father. He didn't defend me. He was busy checking the wine list, indifferent to the fact that his wife and son were dissecting his daughter's soul. In that moment, something inside me broke. But it wasn't a loud break. It wasn't a scream. It was a quiet, definitive snap. It was the sound of a bridge burning. I looked at my mother's smirk. I looked at Kevin's arrogant, flushed face. And I realized, they don't love me. They don't even like me. To them, I am just a resource to be managed and a target to be mocked. The sadness that had weighed me down for 29 years evaporated. In its place, something cold and sharp settled in my chest. Clarity. I didn't cry. I didn't flip the table. I smiled. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my drink. I set the glass down on the white tablecloth without making a sound. "I have an early morning," I said, my voice steady, betraying nothing. Enjoy the Maldives. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked out. Running away again. Kevin called out behind me. Weak. I walked out of that restaurant, into the biting cold of the winter air. I hailed a cab. And as the city lights blurred past the window, I didn't shed a single tear. I was done crying. They thought I was walking away because I was weak. They had no idea that I was walking away to burn their kingdom to the ground. If you were in my shoes that night, honestly, what would you have done? Would you have caused a scene? Screamed at them? Or would you have done what I did, walked away in silence to plan your next move? Think about it. I got back to my apartment. It was quiet. The only sound was the hum of my old refrigerator. I made myself a cup of tea, sat down at my chipped kitchen table, and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, but from adrenaline. I went to the closet and pulled out a dusty plastic bin. This was the family box. It contained copies of every document they had ever made me sign. Just for tax reasons. Just to build credit. Just for the estate. I started reading. Really reading. For the first time in my life, I didn't look at these papers as a daughter trusting her parents. I looked at them as a stranger. And what I found made my blood run cold. First, I pulled up the deed to the family cabin at Lake Chelan. This cabin was their crown jewel. It was a stunning, waterfront property where they spent every summer. They hosted parties there, bragged about it to their country club friends. They always told me, "We put your name on the deed so one day, far in the future, it will be yours." I looked at the legal language. Sole owner, Sarah Jenkins. Not co-owner. Not beneficiary. Owner. My grandparents, who had originally bought the land, had left it to me in a trust, bypassing my parents because they knew my dad was bad with money. My parents had manipulated me into signing documents that gave them management rights, but the title? The asset? It was 100% mine. I sat back, stunned. I owned $1 million property, yet I was struggling to pay rent on a studio apartment. Next, I looked at the credit cards. I logged into the online banking portal for the joint family card my mom claimed was to help my credit score. I scrolled through the transactions. Four Seasons Resort, $5,000. Gucci, $2,300. Michelin Star Dinner, $800. I looked at the account details. Primary account holder, Sarah Jenkins. Authorized users, Linda Jenkins, Robert Jenkins, Kevin Jenkins. Do you understand what that means? It means I was legally responsible for the debt. They were just authorized users. If they decided to stop paying tomorrow, the bank wouldn't go after them. They would come for me. They were racking up points and prestige on my social security number. Then, the loan. A $50,000 line of credit Kevin had opened for his business. Co-signer, Sarah Jenkins. I checked the payment history. Late. Late. Minimum payment only. My credit score wasn't being built. It was being held hostage. I sat there until the sun came up. The realization washed over me in waves of nausea and rage. I wasn't just the black sheep. I was the host animal. They were parasites. They fed on my credit, my assets, and my name to maintain their lifestyle, all while treating me like garbage to keep my self-esteem low so I wouldn't fight back. It was brilliant, in a sick, twisted way. If I felt worthless, I wouldn't check the accounts. If I felt lucky just to be invited to dinner, I wouldn't ask why I owned the cabin but wasn't allowed to stay there. I grabbed a notebook. I wrote 3 words at the top of the page. Take. It. Back. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I called the one person I knew could help me. Maya. Maya was my college roommate, the only person who knew how bad my family really was. She was now a shark of a real estate lawyer in downtown Seattle. I met her that morning. I showed her everything. Maya looked at the deed to the cabin. Then she looked at me. "Sarah," she said, her voice serious. "Do you realize you can legally sell this property tomorrow? You don't need their permission. You don't even need to tell them." "I know," I said. "Can we do it fast?" Maya grinned. "I have a client. A tech couple from California. They've been looking for a place on Lake Chelan for months. They have cash. They can close in 5 days." "Do it," I said. "And the accounts?" Maya asked. "Burn them," I said. "Close everything. Remove them as authorized users. Freeze the lines of credit. I want my name scrubbed off their life." The next week was a blur of paperwork and silence. I signed the sale agreement for the cabin. The tech couple offered $1.2 million. Cash. I signed the letters to the banks. I signed the revocation of power of attorney. Every time I signed my name, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was the opposite of how I felt when I signed for my parents. Back then, I signed out of fear and obligation. Now, I was signing out of power. I didn't tell my family a thing. I let them enjoy their week. I let them post their blessed photos on Instagram. I let them live in their delusion for just a few more days. This is the part where most people hesitate. They think, maybe I should warn them? Maybe I should give them one last chance? No. When you are dealing with narcissists, a warning is just giving them time to manipulate you. It happened exactly 1 week after the New Year's dinner. I was sitting on my sagging couch, reading a book, when my phone started to buzz. Mom calling. I let it go to voicemail. Mom calling. Mom calling. Then a text from Kevin, "What did you do?" Then an email notification on my laptop, "Chase Bank, your request to remove authorized users has been processed." Another notification, "Amex, account closed at owner's request." My phone was vibrating so hard it was dancing across the coffee table. Finally, I picked up my mother's call. I wanted to hear it. "Sarah." She wasn't speaking, she was screeching. It was a sound I'd never heard from my poised, perfect mother. "Sarah, are you insane? What is happening?" "The cabin. There are strangers at the cabin." "Hello, Mother," I said calmly. "Don't you hello me. We drove up for the weekend and the keys don't work. There are movers in the driveway. They say they bought the house. They have a deed." "Yes," I said. "They do. I sold it." You what?" Her voice cracked. "You can't sell it. It's our house." "Actually," I said, channeling the coldness of that New Year's night, "according to the deed you made me sign, it's my house. And I decided to liquidate my assets. I'm sure you understand. It's just business." "You little witch!" she screamed. "Fix this. Fix this right now. Do you know how embarrassed we are? The neighbors are watching." "I can't fix it, Mom. The papers are signed. The money is in my account. Oh, and by the way, I closed the credit cards. You'll have to use your own money for the hotel tonight." I hung up. My heart was pounding like a drum, but I felt high. I felt electric. 10 minutes later, Kevin called. I answered on speaker. "You tanked my credit," he roared. "I was at a closing. My card got declined for the deposit. Do you have any idea how bad that looks? You humiliated me." "It wasn't a joke when you called me a failure in front of everyone, Kevin," I said softly. "You said I was the one who never made it. Well, I just made $1.2 million. How's your deal going?" "I'm coming over there," he threatened. "I'm going to. If you come near my apartment, I interrupted, I will call the police and show them the fraudulent loans you took out in my name. Maya has the paperwork ready to file for identity theft. Do you really want to play that game, Kevin? Silence. Heavy, stunned silence on the other end. He hung up. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. It wasn't the banging of an angry brother. It was the firm, authoritative knock of my father. I opened the door. Robert stood there in his cashmere coat, looking grave. He didn't yell. That wasn't his style. He walked in, looked around my tiny apartment with disdain, and sat on the edge of my thrifted armchair. Sarah, he began, clasping his hands. We need to talk like adults. I am an adult, Dad. That's why I sold my house. He sighed, the sound of a disappointed parent dealing with a toddler. You've made a mess. Your mother is hysterical. Kevin is in jeopardy of losing his business license if his credit drops too low. You are destroying this family. No, Dad, I said, standing tall. I'm not destroying the family. I'm resigning from my position as the family bank. We raised you, he said, his voice dropping to that manipulative whisper. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing. I snapped. The anger finally bubbled up. You gave me debt. You gave me insecurity. You mocked me at dinner because you thought I was too stupid to read the papers you made me sign. You called it pity? No, Dad. It was predation. He stood up, his face hardening. You ungrateful girl. You think you can survive without us? You are nothing without the family name. I laughed. It was a genuine laugh. Dad, look around. I've been surviving without you for years. I pay my own rent. I buy my own food. The only thing you guys contributed to my life was debt and trauma. I'm not nothing. I'm the one who just cashed out. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. And tell Mom if she contacts me again, I'll release the bank statements to her church group. I'm sure they'd love to see how much she spends on wine and Botox while claiming to be a humble servant. My father looked at me. For the first time, I didn't see the giant I used to fear. I saw a small, aging man who had lost control. He walked out without a word. The next few months were chaotic, but in a way that I watched from a distance, like watching a reality show I wasn't starring in. The fallout for them was catastrophic. Without my credit line, Kevin's business folded. He couldn't get approved for new loans because his debt-to-income ratio was destroyed once I removed my income from his applications. He had to sell his sports car and move into a smaller townhouse. My parents, the humiliation was their worst punishment. They had to explain to their friends why they weren't going to the lake house anymore. Rumors swirled. Some people whispered that they went broke. Some whispered that there was a legal battle. My mom stopped posting on Facebook for 3 months. Her image, her precious, curated image, was shattered. As for me, I didn't buy a Ferrari. I didn't go on a vengeful spending spree. I paid off my student loans. I paid off the lingering debt on my car. I set aside a massive chunk for taxes, because unlike my family, I pay my taxes. And then, I did one thing for myself. I moved out of that dark, damp apartment. I bought a small, beautiful condo with big windows overlooking the city. A place that was mine. Truly mine. I sat on the floor of my new living room on the first night. It was empty, echoing, and perfect. I realized that for the first time in 29 years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't waiting for a phone call telling me what to do. I wasn't the backup plan. I was the main character. I haven't spoken to my parents or Kevin since that day. I hear through the grapevine that they are working on rebuilding, whatever that means. They tell relatives that I had a mental breakdown and stole their money. I let them talk. I know the truth. The deed was in my name. The debt was on my credit. I simply took ownership of my life. I want to leave you with this. Family is a heavy word. We are taught that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water. But sometimes, family is just people who share your DNA. Being related to someone does not give them the right to abuse you, mock you, or use you as a financial safety net. You are not a prop in someone else's movie. You are not a punchline. If you are sitting there right now, suspecting that your name is on a paper you didn't read, or feeling small because your family makes you feel small, please, listen to me. Go check the paperwork. Read the fine print. And if you find out you hold the power, don't be afraid to use it. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to cut the cord. It hurts. It's scary. But on the other side of that fear is a freedom you can't even imagine. My name is Sarah. I was the family failure. Now, I'm the woman who owns her own life. And let me tell you, the view from here is spectacular. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, it helps more people find this message. And tell me in the comments, would you choose revenge or forgiveness? I read every single comment. Don't forget to subscribe to the Su Kanya Method for more stories of truth, justice, and claiming your power. See you in the next video. Stay strong.